Thank you so much for staying with us. Now, the Special Investigating Unit, that's the SIU, has revealed large-scale systemic corruption within South Africa's immigration framework. So it goes from fabricated visas for high-profile figures like Prophet Shepherd Bushiri, all the way to illicit permits traded on the black market. The investigation exposes a network that has severely compromised national security and public trust. The SIU says the country's immigration system has been treated as a commodity, with permits and visas sold, traded, or even laundered in organized schemes. For more, let's talk to the Home Affairs Deputy Minister, Njabulo Nzuza, who joins us for this conversation. Deputy Minister, appreciate your time. Thank you so much. Of course, it's one imagines a difficult time for your department here, but one has to ask from the start, how did your department's internal audit procedures miss this?
Well, this is something that we've been working on a while. When I think from the last administration, we involved the multidisciplinary team that was led by Dr. Cassius Lubisi. So it means that these were already picked up from there. But obviously, they had limited investigating capacity. And that is when we then invited the SIU to come in. You will remember that even internal audit itself, when you have collusion amongst people who are working in the same environment, it becomes very difficult for them to establish the patterns. But then when you invite institutions like the SIU, all then comes to lay bare, it all becomes out in the open, and that is why they were called. So they might not have had the capacity, but at least what we are dealing with now is a situation where we know what exactly happened, and we have already put up some of the disciplinary measures. And it's long been coming, Arabil. I mean, if you look at August 2024, you had an official that was sentenced to 35 years, and they are serving right now an effective term of about 12 years in prison. So all these things have been long coming, but when you do investigations, you can't be excited about it. You have to be procedural in order to make sure that you nab the people and make sure that there are consequences.
So how many people have you said are guilty?
Well, in just a summary, we have done about 275 criminal referrals, 111 who have been investigations which have been closed. You heard about them issuing about 2,000 fraudulent visas. And here, what is surprising is that, Arabella, you are not dealing with a lot of people. So you will have about 11 people in the environment. But those people, their job is to collect, is to receive applications. After receiving application, make recommendation. They are the ones who are expected to verify all the paper records that are received. For instance, a bank statement has been attached. They then verify that and sign off and so on and so on. The others that follow in terms of quality assurance are now doing high-level interviews. So you have your level 5 people who are then captured. After they have been captured, they then put up a disease in the entire environment. And we really are dealing with them. If you look in terms of disciplinary actions that we have taken, just in the last financial year, we finalized about 44 cases. We had about 12 dismissals. We had about 14 suspensions, which are without pay, about 13 written warnings. So we are acting decisively, and we are sending a very strong message for those who remain in the environment that never get tempted to take this route. But what is important now is that we are relying on digital on the digital environment to make sure that we limit human interface with applications. For instance, if you have a same bank statement that will have been used more than 100 times. Well, yes.
Yeah, sorry. I'm only interjecting possibly because now I'm worried about all those that have those fraudulent visas, passports, etc. How will you know?
They are in on it. When we are telling you about 2,000 fraudulent study visas that we issued, we know those people already. And we'll look on those visas and revoke them. We are currently under review for the revocation of those visas. And it will have implications on subsequent visas that they get in. Because remember, this is how they will have gotten through to the system. They come in because a study visa has lesser requirements and the documents required were much easier to sort of solicit. They will come in through those study visas and then eventually graduate to other visas. We will follow them till the level in which they are in now, because all that they got will have been from a poisonous tree of the 2000 fraudulent study visas.
Yeah, this feels like it's going to take some time, though, to curb and pull completely out of the system. Technology itself is not infallible, so you have to remove human error as much as possible. How do you plan to do that? What are the safeguards from here?
Firstly, we are already on an exercise. Look, when we are changing the organization as we are moving to digital spaces, it means you must also foster culture change within the organization. Because remember, people contact each other in the workplace. One person, it starts with one person who says, no, I've done this, I've gotten away with it. Now I just need you to help me because of these steps. So if you control it there by making sure that everybody understands the implication and also changes the culture within the institution, you will then get somewhere. And then you put in these digital technologies. For instance, you will remember that we had the problem of photo swaps when it came to passport. But because we had the automated biometric information system, which was using facial capabilities, now when you go and apply for a passport, when you sit there, we verify immediately if the face that is sitting in front of us applying for the passport is the same face we have in the digital spaces in the AP system. So after that, we don't issue passports. For instance, we know that it will have caused inconveniences in some instances where a person, you could collect a passport for someone at some point under certain circumstances, but now you just simply cannot. So all those measures are meant to protect the integrity of our systems. Even now, when it comes to passport, we're now introducing things like machine learning detection for fraudulent passports,
Yep.
automation reducing discretion from officials. Because a computer does not ask for a cool drink. It says, look, this bank statement is fraudulent, and therefore we can't proceed with the application. Whereas human interaction say, well, it is a fraudulent bank statement, but do you have something for me? A computer can't ask that. So that's why we're moving to more digital spaces.
Yeah, the concern here is that so many times, and anybody in the country would tell you, that going to a Home Affairs department, sometimes going to a traffic department, one of the key words and phrases you'll hear is, we are offline. How do you prevent that?
Well, we have had instances in the past of our thing offline, but what we have been operating with is a better managed service. We have had IT working on the IT environment of ours, and we are broadening access through the banks to make sure that you have major servicing points, and also you can use your digital apps for you to be able to get your service. So it is something that we're doing. If you look at our booking system as well that was introduced, not at 100% in terms of operations, but it does help us manage queues better, be able to do things better. We are running a digitization process of moving away from paper records, which enables us to have your records at the fingertips, so that whatever information we must verify, we don't need to go physically and look for paper. We can do it quickly online, which makes it much easier.
All right. Do you know how many maybe fraudulent visas have been cancelled so far?
Well, we are starting the process with the 2000 fraudulent study visas now, and then we'll keep you updated. Because what we do, Arabella, is that our responsibility is not just about, telling you that, look, so-and-so has a fraudulent visa and then it ends there. We have to be careful because we must effect consequences. We know that what we do must eventually end up in court, and there must be no loopholes where a person says, no, on a certain date, this was said, whereas it was not the case, and so on. So we tried very carefully when we are still managing these cases. What we can say is that we have the 2000 fraudulent study visas and others that we are looking at. It's just as these 2000, and those are under review for purposes of revocation, and we'll definitely get there. Look, we understand the frustration that comes with it, that when a revelation has been made. But we've been working on this revelation. If you look at people who've been dismissed from August 2024, and if you look at the duration the SIU had to spend with us, it means commitment. And that is why we are saying that we are not going to get tired of fighting this back. We know that criminals, they are sitting out there, even as I'm speaking here, they are listening, saying, how do we bypass this? How do we do this? They must know that now we are also upping our game by continuously improving our systems.
Okay, and then the digitization of visa applications? I mean, to finally get that digitized, to finally not have to carry the book maybe at some point, I don't know, is any of that coming to the fore?
Yes, it's already, if you look at the G20 summit that we already had some of the dignitaries arriving through our ETA. So those are some of the digital platforms. If you look at the e-visa system as well, which then might become, not so much useful with the introduction of the ETA. So we are really pushing in those particular spaces. And like I've said, we are now using biometric identity matching. We are using machine learning as we speak to detect fraudulent passports. We are also automating all our systems. But I think for us, the ETA really takes it home for us. It means that you have people who will apply online, have the applications adjudicated there. Obviously, we have not opened it to large scale. We have only opened it up to some of the countries that are less riskier for us. But for us, it was very much a milestone during the G20 to have those seamless movement of people using these digital platforms like the ETA.
Yeah, I'd like one too. I'd like one. Let's try something here. Why don't we try an experiment here, Deputy Minister? I'd love to be involved in that one. I mean, you'd probably accept, though, that this corruption that has now been unfolded here by the SIU directly undermines our own national security. I mean, it allows individuals with fraudulent documentation to operate freely in South Africa. In some instances, you have Kudagwashe Mpofu using a fraudulent PRP to secure a CFO position at the Northwest Development Corporation, now earning 1.6 million annually. How many individuals do you think there are that are now employed in senior positions on the basis of fraudulent documentation that now need to be scaled back? Because one would think that there's asset forfeiture, there's enrichment of this kind that continues to happen. How much of that do you think that's extended to overall, beyond just the 2,000 that you've named? How much do you think it extends to?
You'll be amazed, Arabil, of how many people we have actually taken out from government positions on the basis that they entered the country through fraudulent documents. You will be amazed to the extent in which they've gone. Obviously, some of the cases we are still dealing with. The ones that we mention are the ones that we will have concluded, but there is quite a substantial number. Not so huge to say. Well, I can't mention the people here because of the legal process. But one thing that we know is that we have been napping them over a period of time and will continue to do so. So for us, the 2000 is just an indicator. But also what is important is that we invited the SIU to come into the space because a problem was identified. They have given us indications of where the problems are, who are the issues. But what is most important about their work is not about napping these people, it's about providing clarity on gaps within the system to enable us to deal with those gaps. And they have done that, and we have made the necessary interventions to deal with that.
All right. Well, Deputy Minister, we do have a poll running today, and we asked our audience just about exactly this. Should Home Affairs overhaul the immigration system? This is what the poll said. This was the question we asked, and this is what the audience, those that are watching at home, have been voting. And 81% of them have said urgently need reform. 9% say you need to enforce the existing laws, because if we just did that, we'd probably get things right. 6% saying that we need to target the implicated, and fix internal controls is at 4%. What are your thoughts when it comes to something like this? I mean, yes, urgently is the overhaul process that some of the viewers that are watching today have suggested.
I'm not surprised of the percentages that are seen there. And that is why we recently closed off on public comments on the white paper, because that white paper deals with the entire legal reforms of overhauling our immigration systems. It talks about introducing the digitization, various forms of visas. Because what has also been a problem in our system is that a person enters using a study visa. And then that person is now applying for some temporal residence visa on the basis that, no, I've stayed in the country for 3 years or 4 years, therefore I can now be a temporal resident. Then they graduate. Ultimately, you find a person who entered the system for certain reasons now sitting as a citizen. So the white paper deals with all those issues. The introduction of certain visas. For
Yeah.
instance, you had the system that told you that a 25-year-old can apply for a retirement visa. The system is now saying, no, we
Wow.
can't do that. Even in terms of what has given people access to the country. Look, Arabil, what has been the problem is that people have been abusing our asylum system because of how we admitted them and internalized the law. And then people will come and say, I'm an asylum seeker, because they know that the law allows us not to chase them away. We have to bring them into the country, whereas they are not coming here because they are
Yeah.
running away from their country. They are actually economic migrants. So the white paper deals with the overall system overhaul. And that is why it is a white paper on
Sure.
citizenship, immigration, and refugee protection.
All right. Well, Deputy Minister, really appreciate the time. Thank you so much. Perhaps yourself or perhaps your minister as well would be able to join us in studio for a much lengthier chat as well around the Home Affairs Department. So much to still be able to unpack. Would love to have you guys in studio. So please do join us where possible. Njabulo Nzuza is the Home Affairs Deputy Minister joining us as we speak about the graft that has now been uncovered across the Home Affairs Department, SIU exposing that rampant corruption in that department. That's the end of the Middle Ground. More